that kind of contraption, I wonder? I very much doubt it. Very too modern. Far too modern for Sweeney.
Fleet Street watches quietly as Sweeney Todd waits, razor ready, and Mrs Lovett keeps the ovens warm down the street. They don't rush, they don't hide. He who murdered his customers above the street's shops and courts, and his accomplice, Mrs Lovett, who runs a nearby pie shop, turns victims into meat pies. This macabre partnership has made Fleet Street an enduring symbol of Victorian Gothic imagination, as well as real-world history.
Today we are back in London, in Fleet Street, my most favourite street in the city. I love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Oh wait, Mrs Lovett? That's a whole nother story. That's right, today we're stepping back into the peasouper shrouded alleyways of Victorian London to investigate one of the grimmest legends ever to seep into the city's cobblestones. We'll trace the story through the real locations in and around Fleet Street itself, the centuries-old church of St Dunstan in the west, and finally to Bell Yard, home to the notorious Mrs Lovett's pie shop. People say Sweeney Todd is just fiction, a penny dreadful story at best. I believe I know different. I've researched this story for many years. I suppose it's what you believe, isn't it? Never let the truth get in the way of a good story, that's what they say. But it's what you believe that matters. What you believe is something different altogether. But we'll visit places that Todd was reputed to frequent, like the old Cheshire Cheese, where Charles Dickens drank around the same time, and where Sweeney effectively recruited victims. Also, we'll visit the shop, or where the shop once stood. But first, we'll start off with the Seven Stars, a Grade II listed 17th century pub at 53 to 54 Carey Street in Holborn. Notable for surviving the Great Fire of London and has been dated back as early as 1602. The Seven Stars. One of the oldest, if not the oldest pub in London. So let the Sweeney Todd video begin. So sharpen your razors. This one's going to get dark. And one thing I think it's important to mention before we venture into the Seven Stars for a refreshing beverage is I have emailed Southern Water twice now in the last sort of month, and they say their response time is 2 to 5 working days, business days. Have I got a response on either of those two emails? No. But I was applying for us to get access to Fleet Ditch, the old sewer system that ran underneath St Dunstan's in the west, from Sweeney Todd's reputed barber shop down to Mrs Lovett's beautiful meat pie shop. But unfortunately no response as yet, so maybe that'll be a future video, but I thought it'd be clear, I'd be clear to say that at the moment that that's not a possibility, but maybe in the future. Right, Seven Stars, one of the oldest pubs in London, survived the Great Fire. Let's do it.
Its location on Carey Street, beside the Royal Courts of Justice, has also given it long-standing importance as a legal haunt, closely associated with lawyers, clerks and judges over centuries, embedding it in the social life of London's legal quarter. There is no evidence that suggests Todd and Lovett ever drank here, but it's almost inevitable that they did.
Roxy Beaujolais' famous cat. Now, Fleet Street in the 18th and 19th centuries wasn't the polished business district we see now. Back then it was a narrow, bustling place with printers, taverns and law offices, and the occasional shadowy barber. Now, the legend claims that Sweeney Todd operated his barbershop at 184 and 185 Fleet Street. I think it's 185. But does the alleyway, Hen and Chicken's Court, suggest different? So shall we go and see where customers entered expecting a quick shave, but very few walked out? It's over there. Let's go. So I think it's this one. I don't know why, just a hunch. I think his barbershop was in there. But then some say it's this building next door. Which I can understand what makes sense, because Hen and Chicken's Court, which is here, which is this very eerie alleyway, would lead round to the back, which made it a very advantageous separate entrance. Now, I was here about 10 years ago, maybe more. And about 10 years ago, there was a doorway through there. And someone had written on it, one of the labourers that was working on the property at the time had written on there, Sweeney was here. Now that would lead into the second property, not the one next to the church. But my hunch was the one next door, but it could very well have been here. The Demon Barber of Fleet Street. Now, whether Sweeney Todd ever truly existed remains probably forever up for debate. Some say he was invented for a penny dreadful called the String of Pearls, whereas others insist it was just based on scattered police reports and whispered urban myths. But what is certain is this: Fleet Street is the perfect setting for horror. Crowded, dirty, little policing, bad lighting, and plenty of places to hide a body. In pies, for example. Here stands St Dunstan in the West, one of London's oldest churches, with records dating back nearly 1,000 years. In the 1700s, locals reported a persistent foul odour drifting through the street. Some blamed blocked drains, some blamed the Thames, others blamed the abattoirs nearby. But in later retellings of the Sweeney Todd legend, the smell became woven into the story, suggesting something darker. According to these accounts, parishioners complained that the stink was strongest near the barber shop. Something rotting and rotten beneath the floorboards was said. Now, considering that's where the parishioners would have complained while in Mass or Sunday service or wherever it was. And Sweeney Todd's barbershop, apparently, there.
And then you have one on the
Now, geographically that makes sense, because if bodies were dropped from there to below, transported or kept for a period of time under the church, and then along to where Bell Yard is, which is up there on the right hand side, then geographically speaking, that verifies and validates that story. Someone called the police. It's too late. It happened centuries ago now. But I find that really, really interesting. Those records, those accounts are made, and it makes sense. Maybe just a coincidence, maybe not. Now, to be clear, there's no historical proof linking these church complaints to any murders. And honestly, walking by on a foggy evening with church bells ringing overhead, you can see how Londoners let their imaginations run wild. Now, the most famous element of the Sweeney Todd story is in his ingenious and horrific trap. According to the tale, Todd's custom barber chair was built to rotate backward and drop unsuspecting victims into a basement tunnel. Whether this mechanism ever truly existed, who knows? But in Victorian fiction, nothing fascinated readers more than the idea that technology and murder could merge. So here's the truth. There is no solid historical evidence that Sweeney Todd ever lived, or that Mrs Lovett ever sold pies made from human remains. But the story emerged in a city that felt like it could be true. London was dangerous. Sanitation was poor, and the line between reality and horror fiction was blurry. The legend thrived because it tapped into real fears. Disappearing into the city, corrupt businesses, and the terrifying idea that you might sit down for a cheap meal and become part of the menu. And even today, when you walk Fleet Street or slip into the shadows of Bell Yard, you can sense the echoes of the story. And I, for one, think it's true. So welcome to 7 Bell Yard, which is right there. Now occupied by a non-pie maker, I would assume. Now, according to legend, Todd's victims were transported through underground systems to Mrs Lovett's pie shop, where she baked, may I add, the most popular meat pies. The story claims the pie shop's fame grew precisely because no one could identify the mysterious savoury filling. Now, meat was expensive in London back then, but Mrs Lovett's pies were strangely cheap. Apparently, customers praised the tenderness, the flavour, the freshness. Then someone bit down onto a piece of jewellery, a ring, and once Todd's crimes were discovered, the explanation became horrifyingly clear. Now, whether or not this happened in real life, Bell Yard as a setting is strangely perfect, cramped, hidden, enclosed by buildings that would have muffled strange noises and masked odorous smells. Enclosed by buildings that would have muffled suspicious noises and masked. Third and final take. Enclosed by buildings that would have muffled suspicious noises and masked terrible smells. Door slam. Oh, he's got a bike, he's going to take them off. But there are records out there detailing these events. Barristers, clerks, saying that they would come to Mrs Lovett's for lunch because the meat was so beautiful. The best pies in London. And they weren't paying half as much as most people were around London. And also, it was recorded that someone did find jewellery in a meat pie. How would that happen? I'll let you be the judge. But I know what I think. I think I like to believe that Mrs Lovett and Sweeney Todd worked together in collaboration on their business venture down the hatch in the barber shop and in the recipe in the pie shop. Bell Yard, the street where the infamous Mrs Lovett made the most delicious pies known to man. Over a box. Handcrafted pies. No need for that, is there? So what do you think? Was Sweeney Todd purely fictional? Or could the legend be inspired by darker truths that London preferred to forget? If you enjoyed this walking in the footsteps of Sweeney Todd and Mrs Lovett, and you want to see more of this kind of thing, then subscribing helps. Liking even more so if you do like it. Obviously don't like if you don't, because that would be silly, really. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. I've loved the story of Sweeney Todd for years. I've researched loads of it. So I hope this has brought you some kind of interest to investigate further and to try and find out if this Sweeney Todd and Mrs Lovett characters actually existed. Oh, Dr. Johnson's house. Dr. Johnson's house. Open 11 till 5, Tuesday to Saturday. So this is just off of Fleet Street. So worth coming and seeing this. If you're around and you've got time. Now please note, it does seem a lot of the time that it's locked and closed, but you have to knock. You have to knock on the door and then they'll let you in and they'll show you around. But it's just on this little back street, which is called Gough Square, just adjacent to Fleet Street, which is just round that side. But do come and see Dr. Johnson's house. Is conveniently located as well around the corner to my favourite pub in London, the Old Cheshire Cheese. And you can also meet Dr. Johnson's cat while you visit, which was called Hodge, who still overlooks the property which we've just left, which is down in that lovely little nook. And then if we go down this way and we can do a couple of little jiggles left and right, we will get again to my favourite pub in the London vicinity. Swerve left and right and there we are, the Old Cheshire Cheese, down another dark little alleyway full of character, quirkiness and beauty. And there you are.
The story claimed that Todd slashed the throats of his victims with a razor, triggered a lever, and sent them sliding through the floorboards into the darkness below. Also, another exciting piece of news. A major new UK revival of Stephen Sondheim's Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, has found its Sweeney. The coveted musical theatre role will be played by West End and Broadway star Ramin Karimloo, the Phantom of the Opera, Les Mis of Facing the Crowd plus others, as Sweeney. Stephen Sondheim and Hugh Wheeler's 12-time Tony Award-winning musical will run at the Birmingham Rep in Birmingham from the 4th of July to 9th of August 2026.